And welcome back to another episode of the midmajor.com women's basketball podcast. My name is Derryl Trujillo, the national women's contributor for midmajorbasketball.com. Joining us today during Metro Conference Preview Week is head coach of the Fairfield Stags, Carly Thibault-DuDonis, the three-time reigning champions. Coach, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be on.
So, Coach, a three-peat of the conference hardware, the regular season championship, and the conference tournament. What made this one different than the first two?
I think this year we had a very different feeling coming into the NCAA tournament. So winning this championship allowed us to go and bring probably our most competitive team into the NCAA tournament. So not only do we always enjoy that moment and really celebrate that team and the accomplishment of a championship, but we felt we had been really battle tested throughout the year in a lot of different ways. And had been really competitive in our non-conference, had been tested throughout the year in our league, and felt like this was maybe our most complete team going into the tournament. And so it just felt like it was, we're on the brink of taking the next step.
And going into 26-27, the swan song in the MAC, you bring back four of your top five scorers. Just talk about that retention piece of being able to retain your top players in this portal era as a mid-major and just being able to keep that core together.
Fairfield's a really special place. And so we feel we're a little bit of a unicorn in this college athletics environment right now, where our women are choosing Fairfield for the right reasons from a academic style of play, all the people. We have women that really embrace what Fairfield's values are and what our community is. And so we feel like we are we have a competitive advantage in the sense that we do get continuity in our roster, and it's really enhances our ability to play the way that we do in a 5-out and emotion style, where so much of it is chemistry and read and react. That continuity certainly helps. So we have some of our major pieces back from last year. All of our all conference players are returning. We've added some really dynamic layers to that as well. We're going to be different in a lot of really cool ways this year. So I love that element of kind of how we've gotten incrementally better in our not only our roster, but how we can enhance each year our style of play and tinker with some things to keep being better.
You mentioned those two all-conference returners, Katie Lamoureux, the player of the year in the MAC, and Megan Anderson, both unanimous first-team selections. How rare is that to have not only one all-conference unanimous selection, but two on the same side? And what did it mean to you to see those two earn the accolades they did?
Yeah, it's really cool for those two in particular. Their college career has been unbelievable. They're leaving a legacy here. I love the fact that at Fairfield I get to coach players from freshman to senior year and hopefully through that fifth year now as well. And so you see their development not only as a skill perspective from a basketball perspective, but really their maturity, their growth as leaders, their willingness and wanting to be vocal and emotional leaders for our team. I've seen them both grow so much. And so not only were they both, unanimous all conference this year, but they're both all rookie team, all freshman team coming in. So they've done that throughout their career. And to see how they do it together, they embrace each other. They really created this culture where people come and stay. And it's been a really fun journey with them. And they're both hungry for the next step. And then you throw someone like Jill Herder in that class, who was, I thought should have been on the all conference team and ended up being the MAC tournament MVP. She's is back as well in that class. And then Cyan Ko, who was third team all MAC, soon to be hopefully all Metro as well. But those guys have been the core for us, and it's been really fun to build around them.
When you got to Fairfield, I know the program was in a pretty good spot when your predecessor departed, but did you imagine going from that to three-time MAC champions? I mean, it's kind of like going from 0 to 125 in a car.
It's really neat in the sense that I think we knew this was a place that could be a powerhouse, and not just at the mid-major level. Coach Frager did an unbelievable job, and Coach Nolan before him. These are places that both those coaches stayed for 15 plus years, and there's a reason for that. They left this program in such an unbelievable place. And so we knew it was possible to build on that previous success. And there was an arena literally in the process of being built, brand new. It's one of the best arenas you can find. It's perfect for a women's basketball arena that seats around 4,000. That was going to be brand new in that upcoming November. We have a great practice facility. We have just so many different things that I think women's basketball players find really important, not only from the athletic resources, but a great education. We're 21% admit right now as a university, and so I think we knew we could attract some great talent and great people. I don't know that we would have said it would be this quickly, doing that, in the first 4 years, but I certainly knew that this was a place that we felt we could do some really special things.
Kind of talk about how hard it's been to recruit that talent because the rule book when it comes to recruiting it's like you get it for 1 year, you chuck it out, and it's a new book the next year.
Yeah, I mean, so much of it, yes, you always have to figure out the newest rules and regulations and newest environment, year after year. It's ever evolving, but it's just like anything that you do. You have to evolve to survive. And ultimately, I think those that are able to be really successful still have their core values intact, and they are in alignment with their university's goals. And so the fact that I feel really fortunate to have such great leadership, from our board of trustees to our president to our athletic director. There's so much alignment in how they see and value women's basketball, that makes it really easy for me to continue to kind of lean into those values and who we bring and the relationships of the people that are here. I think that sometimes gets overlooked in the transactional nature of college athletics right now. That if you keep some of those relationships at the forefront, that's ultimately the most important thing.
How much, when you're dealing with a prospective student athlete, is NIL part of the picture, especially at the altitude on the mid-major mountain you guys are at right now?
Mm. It's a new layer and element to the recruiting process. You can, talk about it in the same way that you would talk about style of play and some other things, but we've tried to be very, thoughtful in how we go about it and thoughtful in, making sure that's not the reason that anybody chooses Fairfield. It's really a whole package decision. We are a very different option than some of the people we're going to recruit against. And so, again, I go back to leaning into who we are, the experience that you will have with us at Fairfield. You can have the best of both worlds. You can be a part of a top 25 women's basketball program, and still be a part of a community that embraces you, and it's not money driven. However, we can be a place that we can invest in you, and we can compete, but that's not the reason that you're choosing Fairfield. Because we don't make that the initial kind of foot in the door conversation. We want to make sure this is your fit, because that's how we get that retention year after year.
Talk about the change to the 5 to play five model of eligibility and how that affects the way you will recruit, because obviously you're going to retain some of those players for an
Mhm.
extra year now.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, it's another, like you said, there's constantly a new rule book to follow, a new handbook and playbook. So, it is going to affect, a lot in the next couple of high school classes. Ultimately, I do feel we are a place that I will always want to have freshmen and 4-year, women that we can develop the same way that we have with Katie and Meg. But it is certainly a factor in wanting to keep this team together for 2 years. We have a really special team, that I'm excited to coach this year, and ultimately I want to coach this group and keep this group together as long as I can. So there's a numbers, factor that you can't avoid, but I still, as a general rule, want to recruit freshmen. I think, that's been a really exciting element for us to be able to grow up women in our system.
Kind of talk about your path in coaching. You grew up a coach's kid, a GM's kid, your dad, Mike. Um, did you maybe see the game through coach's eyes a lot earlier than most?
For sure. We always joke because I couldn't sleep as a kid. So, sometimes I'd talk my dad into letting me go hang out with him and watch a game or something. But, I've been going to his practices really for, it dates back to, I think, seventh grade when he first took the job with the Connecticut Sun. And I would do whatever I could to hang out around his teams and around his practices. So early on, it just, showed itself as rebounding for players in passing, but I got to see female athletes and coaches at a level that I'd never seen before. And so I was fortunate to have those role models at an early age and see the ways in which they poured into their craft, and how hard you had to work to be great in it. And so I definitely feel I was fortunate to kind of start that process, thinking the game at an early age. I joke as a coach, I'm like dog years in coaching because I was working for my dad's team in college already. And so I knew early on that I wanted to coach, and a lot of things kind of led up to where I am now.
Kind of talk about you were a well-traveled assistant before stepping into the Fairfield head coach's chair. Florida State, Mississippi State, Eastern Michigan, Minnesota. Kind of talk about what you learned at each stop along the way that prepared you for taking over this Fairfield program.
Yeah. So after I finished playing at Monmouth, I went to Florida State where I was the director of recruiting and helped with camps, and ultimately I helped with some assistant coach duties when one of our assistants was on maternity leave. So I was really fortunate to get my experience in a lot of different areas of that program. But I think the thing I took the most from Florida State was Coach Sue. My very first experience in college coaching was learning from her, who was very student athlete experience centric and focused. And so I'm glad, because you really, as coaches, we learn from the people that we work for in the round. And so I'm so thankful my first experience was putting those relationships and their experience first. And that has certainly impacted me throughout my entire coaching career so far. And then I've been really fortunate to work from a variety of other head coaches when I became an assistant in that capacity. When I was at Eastern Michigan, I don't think there was anybody more prepared for a scout opponent than Coach Verdi. I really got to see how to out coach and out prepare. There was multiple times I could look at him and say he just out prepared for that game, and we won because we were the more prepared team. And so it's kind of that coaching preparation from a scouting perspective. Coach Schaefer, I mean, he is a mastermind in a lot of different ways. So many people talk about his defense, and I think the kind of micro aspect of what he did was he was so great at coaching habits. Our women knew exactly what was expected of them on the defensive end. It was very black and white. We repped it, we drilled it. There was so many. There's so much. It was a master class in habit forming and habit building. And he probably doesn't get enough credit, honestly, for some of his offense as well, because he was great at getting all of his best players the ball where they were most comfortable. He was very, very good at that. And then Coach Way, I mean, she is one of my all-time favorite people when I was at Minnesota in this business. And I mean, she's a great basketball mind. She's clearly a point guard at such a high level for the reason. And the way she saw the game, and she almost had a photographic memory for the game. But I think I now, especially being a head coach, I joke I would have been a horrible head coach had I not worked for her, because of how she treated her staff, treated her people. She made everybody feel important. She listened to everybody. I knew how I felt as an assistant, feeling like what I said and what I did mattered. And so I've been really fortunate to have worked for her and learned just how to value the people that I get to be around every single day.
Yeah, one of my favorite basketball books is Bob Hurley Sr.'s The Miracle of St. Anthony's. In that book, he says that coaches are some of the greatest stealers of all time, and that's kind of where the onus of that question comes from. Is just that quote in that book.
I mean, yeah, we still, I joke that there's really not too much reinventing the wheel. And I think the key is finding what fits you and your identity. For me, like I can't coach the same way that Lindsay or Vic or Coach Sue or any of those coaches coached. But I took bits and pieces of what made sense to me, what fits my personality. And then you also need to tailor it to your team and who you can get, at your university in that certain identity that you want to play and coach. You take bits and pieces of what fits. So I think it's a lot of nuancing certain things and keeping your mind open to evolving and changing year after year as well.
Kind of talk about on the recruiting trail what you're looking for as you work through live periods, because you guys have this read and react concept that has led to you guys becoming the top point shooting team in the country, making just under 12 per game last year.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, we were pretty bullish early on in that first kind of recruiting cycle that we wanted to be a 5-out team, that could shoot a bunch of threes. So we knew that's kind of our route to becoming a mid-major that could win in the tournament and win against P4s and win at a high level. And so our rule of thumb in recruiting was to bring somebody in. They had to be a great 3-point shooter, or a very good 3-point shooter, or had to be elite at something else. They had to have an elite skill that maybe added a different layer to us. And then you can't have too many of those. You got for us to be successful in that 5-out. And so you've seen how that's evolved. If you look at our statistics and our numbers from three point aspects to this point, we were high makes. I think 3 years ago we were at 8.8 a game, but our 3-point percentage was like top 100, whereas 8.8 I think was 15th in the country. And so then we worked to get more efficient, not only in our style and our coaching, but who we were recruiting, who fit, and we were incrementally able to get better year after year. And this year, actually, that number may go slightly down. We can still shoot the ball at a high rate, but we knew that next step for us in the tournament is to get a little bit bigger. We've always been outmatched size wise, rebounding, and so we went to work not only as our freshman class but our transfers in to be able to address some of those deficiencies. So while we may not rely on making 12 threes a game, we do have an interior presence. We have an offensive rebounding presence. We have an ability to get feet in paint in different ways this year that I think we certainly needed as well.
Talk about, life as a mid-major scheduler at kind of the top of the mountain. Um, Jared Olson likes to say that it gets harder the more times you make the NCAA tournament. The more you win, the harder it gets to schedule. Is that what you
Mhm.
found?
It is a challenge. And again, I'd say I would take these problems if it means that I'd rather these problems than everybody wanting to play you because you're not very good. But it is a challenge, and I very much delegate that off to my husband who's on my staff, who is a mastermind in scheduling. He is a savant, as we like to call him, in that he's got a whole whiteboard in his office that has numbers and figures and all these things, and he's always kind of keeping up with the most recent, net to wob to how this interacts and how they all interact with each other from a selection committee perspective. So we've been able to incrementally get better in our non-conference schedule so that those numbers look differently and improve year after year, which allows for a better seed. But it is a challenge, and it's finding a sweet spot of making sure we can be competitive in games, but we know we need to play a challenging non-conference schedule. And so with that, it means we end up probably traveling more than most, but we joke that we'll play anybody anywhere. And so finding those opponents that are willing, that it makes sense geographically, that we're not, schlepping our kids all over the country for 3 straight weeks. It's a puzzle, because you want to also set yourself up for success in those games.
Talk about the America East Metro Challenge. You guys get 2 home games in that. Binghamton and a Vermont side that has reloaded after the departure of Alicia Kresge with Maureen McGarity coming in.
I'm excited. It's going to be a really cool addition to the Metro and our schedule for sure. It definitely helps us get some home games in that. But we're excited because Vermont obviously is a perennially really good team. And she's a great coach coming in. And we actually have some fun ties in that game. Megan Anderson's cousin is on that staff now, so there's going to be a fun little personal tie in that as well. I think we'll have a great crowd for that. In Binghamton, we actually played our first year here, and we did not win. So it's going to be a nice reminder for us to try and get that back. But I think there's going to be 2 great games that we're excited to play and certainly start the season with.
Is there anything else you can tease about the non-conference schedule at this point? I know we're just barely into mid-July, but any teasers you can throw out there, MTEs or anything of the like?
Mm. There will be a tournament. I can't necessarily say where yet, but I think it will be hopefully out soon. But we'll be traveling a decent amount. We're excited to get on the road to a couple of these opponents. We're excited to be able to play. We're really excited about the caliber of opponent. I think this might be our most challenging non-conference schedule yet. But we're looking forward to, again, kind of just challenging ourselves across the board from start to finish in that non-conference.
Um, and then obviously looking to 27, the move to the Coastal Athletic Association. What was your reaction when the bosses told you, hey, this is it in the MAC and we're moving to the Coastal next year?
It's a bittersweet for sure. I've really enjoyed my time in the now Metro in the MAC. I look back to 4 years ago when I first took the job at Fairfield, and the coaches were so warm and welcoming. There's so much camaraderie of the coaches in this league, and the basketball centric focus of this league was really fun to be a part of. There's great women's basketball history between Marist and Quinnipiac, and hopefully our future and what we're trying to do. So there is a real fondness and really excitement for what they're continuing to do. I think the shift to the Metro name is a really cool time for this league. But certainly we're also really excited for the next challenge. There is a really neat opportunity to play in different gyms and different styles. It'll be a new challenge for our coaches to learn new coaches and new systems. And so we're looking forward to that as well.
How odd is it to go into a max season and not have Trisha Fabry at Quinnipiac?
It's bizarre, and I mean, I can go back to even when I played at Monmouth, and Monmouth and Quinnipiac were both in the NEC. I played against her when I was a player, and she was a coach. So all of my college basketball experience is with her on the other side. So she did an unbelievable job, and certainly was sad to see her go, but she had a great career.
Um, and one hopefully that you look to emulate as somebody who sticks around for a very long time at the
Certainly
same.
admire
Talk
that.
about I'm sure you've gotten Power Four offers, other offers along the way, as you guys have built up this streak. What's kept you at Fairfield? Because there's not many folks that's will stick at a mid major just to stick at a mid major. You have to be really
Right.
happy where you are.
I'm glad you asked. Yes, we are so happy. My husband and I love the people here. We love where we live. We love our life, honestly. And so first and foremost, you find your fit and you find your people. And we feel that we found that here. We say the same thing to recruits of when you find that you're going to thrive. And so that's first and foremost. But the second part of it is like we feel that we can make the big time here. Yes, there are these quote unquote P4 schools that have called, but why can't we do that here? We feel like we have the support, the investment, the women who are bought in, a community that's bought in. So why go somewhere else to some place that maybe it's already been done to do it and do it our own way here in a way that again I go back to our values and the way that college athletics has changed. We don't compromise that here. We are able to win, but it's not win at all costs, and it's not at the detriment of people and relationships and experience.
What's it been like to have your husband on your staff? Because I mean, he was a head coach at one point at the Division III level at Wisconsin River Falls, if memory serves.
Yep. Yep. Good work.
So what's it been like to kind of incorporate him into your staff and the way you do things now?
Yeah, I honestly, we joke. I was just joking with another coach whose husband's on our staff this weekend on the recruiting trail, and we get it all the time of like, I couldn't imagine working with my spouse, and both of our reactions like, I can't imagine not having him on my staff. When I first became a head coach, having both him and Eric Johnson, who was on my staff, who's now a head coach again at Denver. Having two former head coaches was so helpful to me. They thought of things that as a first time head coach I hadn't thought of. They were prepared with thoughts for me going into our first season, our first practice, our whatever it may be. But truthfully, with Blake, we're very different. He thinks differently. Having a diversity of thought in my staff is really important, and so he was instrumental early on in opening up my staff dialogue for challenging each other and thinking different ways and throwing out different ideas. And so I thought that was really important. And just for me, it really helps me stay grounded in this business. I joke, I was like, he'll never let me become crazy head coach that a lot of people do when they feel this pressure and they feel the need to win and the need to compete and the need to do, and it's all valid. But he kind of brings me back to earth some days when I'm spiraling or having a tough day. He's able to kind of to keep me grounded in those moments.
Okay, so what in season are you guys like at home watching film together, and then what's that aspect like going home at night?
Yeah, so I'll give you the peel back the curtain a little bit. We don't watch necessarily together as far as the same film. We're typically both on our own laptops in our own spots. I actually, when I was at Minnesota and he was at Wisconsin River Falls, I built a kind of those like two-person desks where you have your own little workspace. We have one of those, which sometimes we use. We each have kind of our own like second screen if we need it. But we ultimately end up kind of settling into our normal spots where I'm on the couch with our dog. I'm a couch film watcher. I like to be comfortable. I like to be warm. And he's like, if he sits on the couch, he's going to be asleep. So he's
Mm.
usually at the kitchen counter, watching at the kitchen counter. He needs to be like sitting upright, can't be too comfortable. So we kind of have our zones of the house where we end up settling in at night when we're watching film.
Um, all right, and then like what's an off season like in Connecticut? Like as husband and wife, you're on the same staff. Are you guys doing the same things in the off season, like recruiting wise, player development wise? Are you guys doing the same things in the office or not really?
One of the actually, we got this piece of advice early on when we first knew we were going to try to work together was yes, we are doing a lot of the same things. We're in the office, we're in the gym, whatever that day holds. But we got a piece of advice to still drive to work separate, have your own car, have your own work schedule, have your own kind of decompression moments leaving work. And that to this day, I think we've been working together for 4 years, and we've maybe driven together a dozen times in those 4 years because just if I got to stay and do some extra work, a couple meetings, a phone call, he doesn't need to wait around and wait for me. Have your own schedule, have your own day, and you can still feel that independence in your work life. But it is nice when we have a little bit of time off in May or in August. We certainly always go visit family or go on vacation and try to also turn it off at times. But we've never made hard rules of like when we get home we're not talking basketball. Like that's just not realistic. But we do try to a couple weeks out of the year turn it off and go away a little bit.
Gotcha. All right. We're gonna close with a rapid fire deal. So, just first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
All right. What is one show that is on the Netflix, Hulu, Peacock, Tubi binge watching list this summer?
So Blake and I have been watching Shrinking. And then I actually am I little bit of a tidbit. I actually blew out my knee and tore my ACL, MCL, meniscus this spring. And so I've been rewatching with my athletic trainer who's been helping me. We've been rewatching Ted Lasso because the teaser of the new Ted Lasso coming out. We got to be ready for it.
Okay. Um, Last book you read.
I'm currently reading The Anxious Generation. I'm not done with it yet. So that's on my current uh, list at the moment. I'm trying to think of a non-basketball or leadership book. I can't honestly. A funny story, I think, is what it's called.
Okay. Um, all right. If I'm visiting Fairfield and I walk into the office, what's one snack that's a must-have in the office refrigerator?
So we actually, fun fact, just got our new fridge, but we haven't. There's nothing in it currently. But I'm a big Monster mix from Target. It's not in the fridge, but it's a trail mix with a little bit of like a peanut butter chip situation. That's one of my favorite go-tos.
Okay. Favorite dessert.
Anything chocolate, the chocolate chip cookie. There's like you cannot beat it.
Okay. Favorite road trip in the metro.
Hmm. Favorite road trip. I do enjoy like the Buffalo trip is always the far one, but I enjoy it because we stay for multiple games, so we'll be on the road for about 3 days. So we do get a lot of good team time in the hotel, and we'll play games and Uno and things like that. So that from a team perspective is fun.
Okay. All right. Karaoke night at the metro tournament. What are you singing?
So I'm a big Prince fan. So I would sing some Prince. I don't know that it would be as much fun because our girls would have no idea what I'm singing and they would be singing along, but I could rock some Prince.
Okay. Um, all right. This time, this time you guys win the Metro and you earn that NCAA tournament bid and you pull off the win that you guys have been seeking for so long. What's the first reaction when the clock strikes zeros?
Oh, just joy. Hug my staff, hug whoever I can that's around me. Probably some type of scream. I'm not a happy crier, so I there won't be tears. That's not really my reaction to being joyful, but it's hug your people.
Um, Favorite movie.
Favorite movie. So I just was talking about this today. I'm not a big movie watcher, but I do love a good like Wedding Crashers, Talladega Nights, a good
Okay.
comedy. Yeah.
Gotcha. You're talking to probably the only person on planet Earth who's seen Forgetting Sarah Marshall 10 times.
Oh, there you go. Semi-pro is another one. I love semi-pro.
Okay. Um, and then last but not least, game night, home game night, and you're rushing home from the arena. What's the like the fast food go to in town on the way home?
Mm. So the cool thing about Fairfield is it's not a huge like fast food town. There's a lot of really cool like hole in the wall, mom and pop beach type places. But if I just am getting any type of fast food, Wendy's is my downfall. Wendy's is my soft spot. Good Wendy's chicken nuggets, you can't beat it. But there's some great places in town, and I feel like I can't even give one props because I would hear from another one that I didn't give them some love.
Good. I love my hole in the wall places. So if I ever
Yeah.
visit, I'm calling your
We got
SID
you.
and
We
trying to
got
get a
you.
hole in the
There's
wall
like
place to
50 of them to pick from in Fairfield.
gotcha. All right. Fairfield head coach Carly Thibault-DuDonis, thank you so much for joining us on a Thursday afternoon here. Coming up to the 100-day mark until we start the 26-27 season, and the Stags try to make it a four-peat in the Metro before moving on. Coach, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.